All right, we're going to look at movement today, and essentially, we're kind of looking at um, using muscles and skeletons to be able to move. We have other muscles like our smooth muscle that can move food through peristalsis, like in digestion. But we're going to be looking at these larger outside movements that require both bones and muscles. So we have a skeleton, we have an internal skeleton with a whole bunch of muscles attached to it. And those muscles can pull on the different bones to help it move. And arthropods also have a skeleton, but theirs are exoskeletons. They're on the outside. So we're going to explore. You need to be able to talk about the movement of like the human forearm and as well as the movement of a leg of an insect and looking at the muscles that work in antagonistic pairs to pull on those bones. So if we're looking at the human forearm, if we want to move it up, you can put your arm out in front of you and move it up and down and kind of think about that happening while you're looking at this diagram. So here are the bones involved. You've got your humerus and you have your ulna down here and your radius. And you've got one set of muscles, your bicep muscles, that is attached up here to the radius and again to the shoulder. And then the antagonistic pair there is the triceps, and that's attached to the ulna and then again to the shoulder. So when one of these is contracting, the other one has to relax. Otherwise, bad things would happen. So to move your forearm up towards the front of your body, you need to have your tricep be relaxed, and then the bicep will contract. And that means this muscle is going to shorten. And as it shortens, then because it's attached here and here, it will pull your forearm up. Then to relax it, you need to relax the bicep, and then the tricep will shorten, and that will pull the forearm back down and extend it because of where it's attached. It's going to pull on the ulna there. All right, so the grasshopper leg, for an insect leg, think about how far they can jump. So they've got a pretty impressive movement locomotion mechanism here. They've got an external skeleton, so where things are attached, the muscles are inside the skeleton, but they're attached in a way that it can still pull and move it around. So they're anchored to the exoskeleton. So we're looking at their tibia, which can come in first to kind of like get the spring ready to go, and then the tibia will extend really hard to push them off the ground. So to bring the tibia in to get ready to jump, they will first relax the extensor muscles, and then they will contract the flexor muscles. So that's going to pull that tibia in. Then when they're ready to spring off the ground, they have to relax the flexor muscles, and then they're going to contract, so shorten the extensor muscles. So that's going to contract, and then it's going to push the tibia away, and that'll allow them to spring off the ground. You can look in your Oxford book on page 478 as well as in your Biozone work sheet to be able to kind of get some examples of that. All right. Something else that you should be familiar with is that we've got all these joints to allow us to move, but we've got different kinds of joints, and different joints allow for different types of movement. So ball and socket, like, you want to move your shoulder around or your hip. So, your leg attached to your hip. So there's a lot of different movement there. You can move both circular back and forth and in and out. So there's a lot of different movements you can do. You could stand up and move things around to kind of feel how that works. But you also have hinge joints. And those are things like, your elbow and your knees. They only move in one direction. You can't push it back in another direction. And then we have things called pivot joints. And that's like thinking about like your ankle and your wrist. So you can kind of move around with your ulna and radius. And so you see this little radius moves around in this little other socket of the ulna, and that also happens in your leg as well. So you can kind of move things around in a circle. So something like this, right? I think I can get that on the screen. So moving it back and forth. So you can, when you're doing that, you can kind of think about what's going on inside your arm. All right. So the one thing that's important that you're able to do is annotate a diagram of the human elbow. So there's a really nice picture here in your Oxford book, but there's also something in your Biozone. So I am going to stop this screencast and let you go on and work on that. And in the next screencast, we're going to be looking at how muscles actually, their structure and their function and their ability to fire.